Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zilstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Valentix. At Valentix, we help coaches and consultants who are struggling with generating consistent, high-quality leads, automating their client onboarding processes, and scaling their operations without simply adding more hours or headcount. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because they're bogged down in manual tasks and feel like they're missing out on the power of modern technology. But with the right strategy and AI-powered solutions, they're able to streamline their workflows, attract better opportunities, and achieve sustainable growth. If that sounds like you or someone you know, learn more at valentix.io. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we are thrilled to welcome Mark Balestri, a serial entrepreneur and business partner at Crankset Group and the Thrill Club. Mark's journey is a powerful testament to strategic growth and intentional living, having successfully built and sold multiple businesses before finding his true calling in helping other entrepreneurs make more money in less time and get off the treadmill. His philosophy centers on empowering business owners to create their ideal lifestyle through their businesses, focusing on core principles and treating key people as stakeholders. With a global presence and keen eye for leveraging AI, Mark's insights into sustainable growth, leadership, and the future of business make him an invaluable guide for our audience. Mark, welcome to The Growth Shift.
Hey, thank you, David.
We're so happy to have you here today. Excited for our conversation, Mark.
Yes.
Your journey as a serial entrepreneur, building and selling multiple businesses before becoming a partner at Crankset Group and 3 to 5 Club is incredible. Could you share what foundational experiences or principles from your early ventures most profoundly shaped your understanding of business and how this led to your current mission of helping entrepreneurs achieve their ideal lifestyle?
Yeah, thanks for the question, David. Yeah, it really started, believe it or not, I call business experiences, especially those that don't go as you plan, as PhD degrees. And one of the most foundational ones is when I was in the military and found out really quickly, as soon as I graduated high school, I went into the Air Force, great branch of the service, but I found out quickly that wasn't my MO. That wasn't how I was made up. And I started investing with a friend of mine in real estate at 18 years of age. And by the time I was 19, we had over $1 million of real estate. Now, the other side of the story is by the time I was 21, I lost it all. And the experience, as painful as it sounded, and it was, especially in real time, was such an educational experience for me in knowing that, look, I had the drive, I had the vision, I had the passion, but I didn't have the knowledge of how to build a business that had longevity and sustainability. And so to that effect, that was my first lesson. And I built upon that in multiple other businesses, and each one was a learning step. And I applied the principles that I learned as far as over leveraged, undercapitalized, not setting up the right systems and accountability, which turned into really a cascading effect of failures, if you will, in the system, which then led to a point of no return. So for me, that one of the most painful experiences in my life ended up being a catalyst, with one caveat: I didn't quit after that experience.
So, Mark, what do you think the key differentiator is here? There's a lot of A lot of stories people hear about, entrepreneurs who build a great business that, fails, comes crumbling down, regardless of what caused it. And certain individuals, they can't keep moving forward. So they don't go back into business for themselves. But
Right.
others, serial entrepreneurs such as yourself, take that as power, as momentum, as fuel, and you continue to move forwards. What do you think are those key differentiators between people who decide not to try again and those who continue
Yeah.
to persist?
Yeah, I think there's three core principles. And now what I'm going to tell you is something that really resonated with me, and I was able to read it and have it articulated through our company called Crankset Group and 3 to 5 Club. And there are four building blocks that are key to any successful business. And the first one is to have a very clear vision and a big why, if you will. And the big why has to be more than your business. It has to be something that outlasts your business, something that gets you out of bed no matter what. And what I think is a differentiator for those who just give up to those who then learn and move on is their why. Their big why isn't clearly defined. It doesn't energize them if they do have one. So to me, that's huge. And then I think the second factor is having the right set of values that they would apply in making key decisions. And that's that North Star. So between your big why and your set of values, those really, I think, are key differentiators between those who quit after a setback or those who go, well, this direction didn't work. So what else do I need to do? How can I do this? And 9 times out of 10, what I found even with this real estate education that I got, I did not have a clearly defined big why, nor if I were being truly honest, were I following my values. And
Mm.
so I made decisions void those two things, thinking the means justifies the ends justify the means, right? And in the end, it really didn't. And it was a quick path to nowhere. But I think if you have the passion and you're clear about what your ideal life looks like, why you're here, and it's a sign to Mark Twain, but I don't believe he really said it, which is the two biggest days of your life is when you're born and when you find out why.
I love that. So as a young entrepreneur, you achieved measurable success, $1 million when you were a young man. You lost that all. And through that process, you didn't have a clear understanding of that North Star, right? Your real
Hmm.
why. But
Yep.
perhaps there was a bit of a lifestyle drive and desire behind it. A lot of entrepreneurs start out with either that drive, the why, right? Wanting to have impact or create change, or a
Hmm.
lifestyle, right? Just tired of
Hmm.
working for other people, wanting to live in a
Yep.
greater way. That's where it generally starts. It sounds like it maybe started on the lifestyle side of things for you, but things developed and you found that why a little bit later on. You've got to share with us. What's that North Star for you now?
Yeah. So my North Star, and it means a lot of things. So when folks want to have a cocktail or a beer or a beverage over it, I can explain it or unpack it. But mine is extraordinary life through extraordinary service. So my North Star is everything I do is geared to serving versus selling. And how do I make a impact with the people I touch?
This must have come to you through some sort of a growth shift of your own. I mean, how is it that you
Yeah.
came to this understanding of, not just, of course, when you were born, but the reason why?
It was through lots of reading, lots of reflection, lots of journaling, inner work, meditation, outer work, you name it, it was a combination. And then it was, if you're familiar with Jim Rohn, some folks who are entrepreneurs they believe, but I love Jim Rohn's comment, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's through relationships that I had that helped me get clarity along with the inner work so that I could say, yeah, this is what energizes me. And ultimately, it is that litmus test. Does it get me out of bed in the morning? Do I feel energized when I ask the question, how will I live my big why this week, today? And so it's just that's just the question. And there is another self-development guru, Peter Sage. He has a great quote, the mind is like a steering wheel. And so when you ask the right questions, the mind will steer you to get the answers for those right questions. So it's really important to ask, what does that look like when I'm living my big why, versus what a lot of people do, and it's societal in nature, is why am I a loser? Why did this happen to me? Well, it'll give you those answers too. So it's better to be more aware and intentional, ask the more empowering questions of what has to happen for me to live my big why? How am I living that big why this week? What do I have on my calendar that's an example of that?
So now a big part of your why today is what you're doing with the Crankset Group and the 3 to 5
Yep,
Club, right? You help
yep.
entrepreneurs make more money in less time and get off the treadmill. What does this actually mean? I mean, how is it that you're working with clients to help them achieve what it is that you come or they come to you for?
Yeah, and again, all credit goes to Chuck Blakeman, my business partner, who has had the ability to articulate these principles in a clear, concise manner that resonates with the vast majority of entrepreneurs out there. And so what we do, we take some time and we help that business owner develop their big why. We don't want to run all the way to the end and they're making decisions for the wrong reason. Again, their desire may be to be in New York when they're running as fast as they can to Chicago, and they end up in Chicago, and what am I doing here? So we really spend some time on that. We work with entrepreneurs and small business owners on what we call a 2-page strategic plan, which is a living document. It really helps them and it encompasses their big why and something we call the BMD, or business maturity date. And we believe that all business owners should establish what's called a business maturity date. And that's clearly defined as you've set your business up so that you and your significant other, you can step away from the business for at least 3 weeks. And when you come back, and that means no phone calls, no emails, when you come back, that business is doing as well, if not better, as if you were right there.
Hmm.
And so we work with them on that, and then we help them establish their 12-month, their 3-month, and their 1-month objectives through our principles. And when they do that, they get amazing results, just amazing results. But it starts with the clarity. And it's just through, I've been there. So as Chuck, we know what that's like to have a great concept or an idea or searching for that ideal lifestyle or to make an impact, but not having real clarity of what's that next right step.
Hmm.
How do I make that right decision?
So if entrepreneurs are starting at a point, maybe pre-entrepreneurial or even in the
Hmm.
beginning of their journey that, they have at least some understanding of what that why is, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's impact.
Hmm.
I think a
Yep.
lot of business owners eventually start to lose sight of that, right? Once they're in the
Hmm.
day-to-day grind and, the
Yep.
stress comes, the tasks come, they're frustrated, maybe they're not making as much money or having the impact that they want to, and perhaps they move further away from that why just because they get lost along the way. Right. So
Yes.
when people get lost and when you meet business owners and you come to work with them, what are perhaps those first couple of steps? You shared, of course, the living document, but could you share perhaps some practical steps or starting point for some of the business owners out there who might feel lost and unclear on their own why right now?
Right. We spend a lot of time visiting on their big why to make sure that it really energizes them. But then we get clarity. There's 7 stages of business ownership. And what you described, by the way, stage 1 is the concept. That's very exciting. You don't even have paper head. It's just, I think this is a great idea. Stage 2, you actually start the business and it becomes work. It becomes real. It's pretty scary. And your number one job is to generate revenue. And then stage 3, you're generating revenue, but not enough to live off of. Stage 4 is what most entrepreneurs and business owners call the American dream. They're actually making money, but they're finding they have to exchange time for money, and that they are making money for the business. And what we help them establish is, one, where are you at now? Stage 1, 2, or 3, possibly 4. And we help them have a mind shift to get to stage 5, where it's a slight but very distinct difference. Instead of them making money for the business is making money for them. We then do a deep dive on their business as far as their processes. We make sure their vision is clear, and then we help them establish those strategies and tactics that will move them along as quick as possible from either a stage 3 or 4 to the stage 5. But a lot of it starts with the mind shift.
Mm.
They thought that owning a business meant they had to be in it all the time.
So the main mind shift is just getting them out of that state of thinking that they have to work for every dollar that's coming in, and perhaps helping them implement systems and people to allow them to step back so when they go on that vacation, the whole business doesn't catch fire and come crumbling down.
That's correct. It's instead of hiring employees, the mind shift is you're hiring stakeholders.
Hmm.
These are people who have a very distinct business mindset. They feel as much an owner as you do. And they're the ones that are going to ensure that the vision and the quality of that business is going to continue. And it does start with the owner, because the owner, what you're trying to do when you establish your values, your beliefs, your mission, your big why, that's what helps you attract the right stakeholders. Once you do that, then those people will help execute the rest of the business. Too many business owners don't have it clear, so when they put ads out to hire employees, which we don't believe you should have employees, we think you should have stakeholders. And your ad looks like everyone else, and how do you expect to attract those superstars, those people who really resonate with your mission and your values, if you don't put it out there clearly, so when someone sees it, they go, that sounds like me. I want to be in that company. I want to be a stakeholder for them.
The stakeholder mindset is very profound, right? Attracting people who are going to perhaps not be fully as invested in your business as you are, but at least align with your values, with your goal, and with your mission ultimately, and feel like they're responsible, I think, for carrying that forward
Right.
as well, right?
People who are looking for meaning in addition to making money. They want to make meaning too.
Mark, do you have any stories that you might be able to share with the audience about perhaps where you met a business owner at stage 3 and helped them move forward to stage 5 and ultimately on to even 7?
You bet. Yeah, there was a great therapist. I work with a lot of therapy practices who everyone who knows a therapist knows they're so heart-centered. They care for people deeply. They have a very strong mission in some cases. But tying it all together, they were struggling, one, getting out of the practice on a day-to-day basis. They had to have their hands in everything. They didn't have any quality time. Their practice wasn't even generating enough to what I would call be a healthy practice. And so we took time to get clarity with their big why, their mission, and their values. And then once we did that, we started setting up 12-month objectives and 3 and 6 that they could execute on to have a healthier practice. And through that execution, and we met monthly, through the execution, and they were achievable benchmarks all the way through for them, they were able to set up the systems, attract the right people, and completely transform their practice within a 12-month period. Now have time to live that ideal lifestyle, have some key players, and discover that some of the people they thought were stakeholders were not when they assumed that. And that's okay. It's better to have that clarity of this is what a stakeholder looks like, so people really know the rules of the game, right? It's just like Monopoly. It's really not fun to play for anyone if you don't know when you pass go you get $200. And it's the same way for a stakeholder. How do they know when they're succeeding? What are those benchmarks for them? What does that look like so they know what they're striving for, so you can have a really what we call an adult conversation versus the victim mentality that we might create as business owners. We don't want those folks who want that. We want to attract the people who want to make meaning and want to know the rules of the game and get excited because it really correlates with their big why and their values. And so then they become excited going to work and making that happen.
What do you think are some of the key indicators or even red flags, I suppose, for people who have, employees that maybe they thought or think that they are stakeholders, but, in reality, probably aren't?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a few of them. Right off the bat, what you're looking for is someone who not only can identify a potential bottleneck or problem or opportunity, but also has ideas and solutions of how to achieve those. What you don't want is someone to tell you, well, that's not my job, versus how can I help? Or I notice that this isn't as smooth as a intake process for our clients, but here's some ideas that I have, and I'd like to run them by you and see what your thoughts are. So that's good versus no, I'm off at 4 o'clock no matter what, and that's somebody else's problem.
So someone who perhaps comes to you with not just a problem, but a potential solution that demonstrates that they're continuing to think forwards, right? They're not just here to do what you tell them to do, but they're here to provide you with collaboration and value in their.
Exactly. And it's your job, though, as the business owner to create the environment where it's safe to come with ideas. And even if you're not 100% on board with some of their suggestions, to not say, oh, that's a stupid idea. We believe in what's called the two-step decision-making process. And that is clearly this. And this happens to a lot of owners, myself included. I'm going to share a quick example. I have an in-home healthcare company, and it was time for us to get a new phone system. So like most business owners, this was 6 years ago, I decided that I was going to take it upon myself to do some research on some phone systems and come up with one that really worked for us. But there's one problem with that. I didn't use the phone system predominantly. My director of operations did. And so one of the two-step decision-making processes is the person who's most affected by the decision should have an equal or greater amount of input in that decision. This is where stakeholders come in. And then the second part is it's got to work for both of us. So what I did next time around, after I did that phone system, it had glitches like every other phone system. And the director, rightly so, said, I don't like this system. It's just not working and doesn't do this and this and that. Rightly so. She had all the right in the world to say that. So after about 2 years of that, I said, okay, let's do this. Here's what I'm looking for as a range for cost per seat. That's the big parameter. Tell me the 4 or 5 key components that you look for in a phone system that works for you. And she listed those. And I said, okay, so with the range of seat cost per seat and those, do me a favor and do some research. And why don't you come back to me with the top 2 companies that meet those criteria? And she did. She was excited about it. And we ultimately then did an interview with those 2. We got together and we came up with the consensus of the company. We picked that company. And here's the crazy thing. A few months later, she says, they still have a few issues, but you know what? Every company has them. This is as good as it gets. And she owned that decision. Input equals ownership. And so people who have a desire to give you input and they're okay with understanding that it's just not their input that makes the final decision, it has to work for everyone, and there's more consideration. Those are really good people. You want those people on board.
Sounds like the approach is really, a collaborative approach, right? If people come to you with ideas, validate those ideas, but then give them more ownership. Right, give them more responsibility to show you why or perhaps what other alternatives might be even better, and to come to you with what they think a good decision would be, and to validate that, or to perhaps probably maybe enlighten them as well if it wouldn't be the right.
Give them parameters.
Yeah.
Give them insights, round out their decision-making process. What does that do? That helps you develop leaders. People who may, in fact, be capable and have the desire to take on more responsibility and get a lot of fulfillment out of that. And so that's the goal.
Unbelievable. Mark, let's shift gears here a little bit.
You bet.
There's some pretty prominent challenges that business coaches are facing, not just business coaches, but coaches all across, right? In today's market, increasingly saturated, let's say, by AI, and we'll get to that, AI and tech and the ease of access to putting yourself out there, let's say, claiming that, yes, maybe you're a business coach or maybe you're a mindset coach and you can help everybody. When in reality, not so many people have those true credentials or qualifications to get the result that they hope they can get to one day. In an increasingly saturated world, what is it that you're seeing and witnessing as some of the main challenges to truly connect with businesses who are ready for this type of work, right? Figuring out what their true North Star is and what their mission is, and then actually being in a position to take action on that.
Yeah, right. Well, the biggest challenge is, as you said, David, there's a lot of noise out there, and how do you distinguish your value proposition to anyone else's? That's really a major hurdle for most businesses. What makes you stand out? What do you do differently through either your experience or your process that may resonate with them? I think as a coach, life coach, business coach, personal development coach, you're not going to be able to help everyone. And I think the sooner you come to that conclusion and discover what your sweet spot is and why that is, the better you're going to be able to articulate that. We call that hedgehogging. Who are the people you're meant to serve? And the first answer is it's not everyone. And there's more than enough of your people to serve. And when you get clear on who they are, it becomes easier than to, one, identify them, but for them to find you because you start using language that works for your audience, not everyone. And so that's what I would really encourage people who are in this field is to identify, first off, who are the clients that energize you? And again, if you say everyone or all business owners, you're not doing the heavy lifting. You're not doing the hard work.
I love that you say this, right? There's a common phrase that people have probably heard before, right? And it applies to marketing, to sales, to business in general. You try and help everyone, you're not going to help anyone, right? Try
Anyone.
and help everyone, you'll help no one. You need to understand exactly how you can fit in and how you can provide value for a very specific person to ultimately help them achieve that as well. So in your position now with what it is that you're doing, what strategies or tactics might you be applying to not just put out the right messaging and align with people, but actively seek them out, attract them, or connect with them?
Yeah. So for me, I can't speak for a lot of coaches. We have different courses. We have limited seats on our courses. So we don't have a lot of people in our courses. We don't take on a lot of business advisory clients because we really do work with them individually. And so for me, it's identifying our key. And my sweet spot is therapy clinics. Love what they do. I work with different businesses. That doesn't mean I turn them down, but my preference is more of a therapy practice because I understand their metrics, their language, the challenges, and the type of person that typically opens up a group practice. And so, first, I use language that really resonates with them. And second, what's great about that is as I continue to help more therapy practices, the best business generation I get is through my past clients. By far,
Referrals, I
by
mean,
far.
extremely powerful. Not only are you, it's a warm referral, it's a warm handoff. There's already trust established, especially if, your referring client has a trusting relationship with them and they wouldn't be referring them otherwise. A lot of coaches, though, seem to be stuck in a position where they're almost reliant on referrals. As strong and as good as they are, it's not as
Mhm.
scalable, right?
That's true.
What would you say to a coach who might be in a position where they're reliant on referrals and they want to break out of that to perhaps scale a little bit more?
Then at that point, it's about developing your specific niche. Again, let's use therapy practice. What's great about that is they have conferences. Boy, what a great way to get identified with those folks in a conference setting. You can be there, you can meet people. And what we say sometimes in this coaching piece of it, the closer you are to a hug, the more likely you are to a client. So being able to just meet them, share some case studies. This is where AI comes in, and we're probably a little over that, but you can take ways that you've helped your past coaching clients, put that in your AI machine, whichever one that is, with the fact that you have taught it your language, your voice, your methodology. and develop key one-piece flyers, emails to people, and even marketing materials for when you go from a conference, because you can put in that conference information and say, based on the reference that I have for my ideal client and what I've done with my case studies that I've uploaded in this conference, here's the website that outlines everything that's in this conference. Please start generating some marketing materials, call to action materials that will speak to my audience.
Mark,
And that will get a ton of response, more than probably what you could handle in one conference if you do it right.
I love that phrase you used as well, right? The closer you are to a hug, the closer you are to a client, right? At the end of the day, business is done by people, with people, and for people. It's the relationships
That's
that
right.
matter more than anything, right? But how do we make that bridge then to using and leveraging technology and AI to allow us to connect or allow coaches to connect more directly with clients to build those relationships rather than, trying to perhaps replace the human element in the business?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. And it really is having intention to really connect with those potential clients on a one-on-one basis or a group setting. We have peer-to-peer mentor groups, which is a great cost-effective way for you to get folks in a group that can also practice the principles to build a business that works for them. And so it still, we believe community more so than ever is going to be the key to successful coaching. And it's developing that community of like-minded individuals who have similar outcomes in mind, i.e., an ideal lifestyle, whatever that means for them, right? But then working together as a community to help each other achieve that. It's very powerful. One thing most entrepreneurs, not all, feel is they feel isolated and lonely. They can't go to their stakeholders and sometimes their spouses and say the three magic words, I don't know. And it's through building intentional communities with your coaching practice. It could be one-on-one business advisory. Sometimes it's both. But through that, you can really help those entrepreneurs, those business owners, get into a community for the first time they actually don't feel alone. And they can grow their business and know that they can come in feeling scared or uncertain and present that to the group. And the group could have some great ideas because they've been through it before or they're going through it right now. And that's, to me, a great way to establish a coaching practice as well.
So with this focus on, community, on
hmm
relationships,
hmm
where can AI start to come into play for benefit, right? I mean, from your perspective, what are perhaps the most significant opportunities and potential pitfalls that AI represents for coaches who are trying to help business owners achieve their ideal lifestyle while also building quality relationships and community?
I think AI can really help you craft your language and your tone as long as, and the materials to present it, as long as you're aware that you have to do the upfront work of training that AI for your specific coaching style, your specific voice, your material. And then you use that to really, and we use it now, it probably generates about 75 to 80% of what we call the draft materials, course materials, advertising materials, the group mentorship facilitation that we do. We set that and we train it with those ideas and the concepts we developed, and we continue to ask it to perfect that, make it more impactful with less time, set the right language, make sure it's in our voice, not somebody else's. And that time that you save is dramatic. That frees you up to have the more hugs. So if you're spending so much time developing the content on your own without leveraging AI, yes, you can do that. And that's what we've had to do before AI. We've all had to do it. What I'm suggesting is use AI to reduce the amount of time and probably get a better output, but then take the time saved to develop the personal relationships and the hugs and really getting to know people. And it's not all or nothing.
So where do we draw the line then? How is it that you know when AI or using it becomes too much and is actually detracting from the quality of the relationships that you're striving to build?
Well, two things. One, you're going to find you're either one, not keeping people in your business advisory or coaching groups, and two, you're not attracting people, so you're not resonating new people with them. So what is that line? It's going to be different, I think, for each of us. And that's probably not the satisfactory answer. Everyone wants a black and white, but I don't believe, it's kind of like what's the best diet for you? Well, what's the best diet for you doesn't mean it's the best diet for me. We all have to do our own work and search on that. But to me, a litmus test is, do you have people leaving? Are you getting comments that they're not getting as much out of it? That means maybe the relationship isn't there. Maybe the content isn't either, but it's probably more relationship. Are they referring people to you? Are they inviting people to the groups? That's another good point. And then are you attracting new people into your group? Whatever that number is for you, it's going to move and it's going to change because we're at such a rapid pace of change right now that, and we're just scratching the surface. It's probably going to change at 3 times the pace next year. And so that answer is going to change.
Couldn't agree more. Mark, your insights into creating businesses that serve an ideal lifestyle and leveraging core principles for success are extremely valuable. To conclude, based on your philosophy of making more in less time and getting off the treadmill, what's the single most important piece of advice that you'd offer to our audience who are striving to build businesses that truly support their ideal lifestyle and personal freedom?
Take the time to get clarity on why you started the business and really spend time on what your business in your mind looks like when it's done. And when I mean when it's done, it doesn't mean you've sold it. It just means it is creating the ideal lifestyle for you. Take the time to get clarity. Clarity is power.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with the audience today.
Thank you, David.
For
Really
anyone who
appreciate it.
might like to connect with you to continue the conversation or perhaps even learn more about what you're doing, what would be the best way to find you online?
You bet. So the best way, you can look up 325 Club, 3TO at 3to5club.com.
Thanks again, Chip, for joining us today on The Growth Shift.
Thanks, David.
And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.